Hi all. Today I will be doing a live stream with SheRose, Kheli from SheRose, the founder of the charity. We will be talking all about the amazing work that she does and just everything kind of to do with the fundraising, and hopefully get to know more about why I'm doing what I'm doing and why I find SheRose to be an amazing charity. So from ever since I remember, I kind of always wanted to work in a charity and make some sort of difference. And I thought, especially now during COVID, charities are struggling with, finances and everything. So I really wanted to. Oh, I'm trying to wave to people, and my phone's not letting me. That's okay. So I wanted to raise money for a charity that's basically working with girls and fighting social injustice. There are way too many girls getting married underage, and it has to come to a stop. In Malawi, 1 in 2 girls gets married before the age of 18, which is just so saddening because they can't continue with education. They usually have to, raise children. They get pregnant earlier, which has so many complications in itself, and it's just so sad. Because every child deserves the right to go to school, to get an education, to have a normal childhood where, they don't have to worry about raising children, looking after the household. So I would like to talk to Kheli about kind of more specifically about what they do. So whenever you're ready, Kheli, just come on, because all good. So hopefully you will kind of feel the way I feel after this live stream, and you'll see how important this is to me. And I really appreciate all the support. Just gonna wait for Kheli to come on live now.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you all fine. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really excited to be finally appearing on your channel.
Yeah, I know. I've
I
been talking
think-
about SheRose the whole time, and everyone's like, "Whoa, who is it? What do they do?" So it's gonna be great to kind of talk to you and tell everyone else about SheRose and what they do. Yeah, I don't even know where I should start. So about yourself. Tell us about how you started the charity, kind of where it all started, really.
Oh, that's a long time ago. Well, not that long. It's been like 4 years, which is still quite long. So I'm originally from Malawi, and I was born in Malawi, and then I moved over here when I was about 8 or 9.
Mm-hmm.
So I hadn't really visited Malawi since moving here, and I had kind of like an idea of what Malawi was like, and I just thought it was going to be like the UK, but obviously people were black or whatever. And going there, and I think that's when I had the harsh reality of the deprivations and the injustices that a lot of people are feeling and are experiencing on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And I think coming back from there, I was like, I want to do something. I kind of like needed to do something to kind of help people back home in my country. And it was only after studying law and kind of like developing a passion for human rights that I was like, actually, I know that what I want to do is towards human rights. And then doing a lot of research into Malawi, I learned a lot around the injustices and the struggles that girls are experiencing. I think
Mm-hmm.
you touched on the statistics around 1 in 2 girls in Malawi faces child marriages. And for me, I think that's just too high. Even if it
Yeah.
was just 1 girl, I think that's too high. And I think for me, it was that realization that that could have been me. I was born in Malawi. That could have easily been me. But just because I was born into an environment and a situation that allowed me to progress and advance, I was not really subjected to that. And I think just because somebody's born in an underprivileged situation or in an underprivileged environment doesn't mean that we should neglect them, and we shouldn't really value them, and we shouldn't afford them the same rights that we
Yeah.
advocate for all the time. And I think, yeah, that's really just the passion was behind knowing that being born in a certain environment, I could have been that person. And just because I've had the opportunities to advance and to see the power that education can have on my life, I want to afford other people that same opportunity. And I think knowing that it really doesn't cost much to educate girls in Malawi, I'm really like advocating for more people to support so that we can give opportunities to people who really don't have those opportunities, but it's easy for us to kind of support. And the fact that education just opens up so many doors for people.
Yeah.
It's something that you can't take away. Once you've learned something, you can't unlearn it. So I think it's just one of those investments that really shapes people's lives, and it's a worthwhile investment. So yeah, that's a little bit about the motivations behind starting it.
I think that's amazing because essentially it's really messed up how it's down to luck of where you were born, whether or not
Hmm.
you get married before the age of 18. It is just horrible to think about, and it just shouldn't be happening full stop.
Yeah.
The work that you're doing, honestly, amazing, and you can all honestly see how close to your heart it is. And it's also beautiful to see that passion. And I feel like if someone doesn't like feel that that's wrong, then I don't understand
Mm.
the way they think.
I mean,
Honestly,
obviously, like there's so many factors that lead to child marriages, but I
yeah,
think um, yeah, I think that the lack of access to education is definitely something that can prevent. And there's so much research that shows that giving somebody that access to education and kind of opening that door to other opportunities that that education can lead to definitely has an impact on minimizing child marriages and yeah, bringing the statistics down. So
yeah.
very yeah,
I was going
education.
to ask you actually, from kind of what you know, I've done a bit of research as well. I thought that it's good to let people know really, kind of how COVID has affected child marriage, and like kind of how that works.
Yeah, so similar to here, I'm talking like I'm in Malawi, but it's similar to here. Malawi was also on lockdown from March,
Mm-hmm.
so schools were closed. Um, yeah, a lot of businesses were closed, so there's been quite a significant impact in relation to child marriages and also teen pregnancies. So some of the data that are coming out is there were about 40 girls getting pregnant every day during lockdown. And even the Ministry of Gender in Malawi has done a rapid assessment around the COVID effects on child marriages. And some of the data were in 2019, there was in one district in 2019, there was about 60 people maybe that were forced into child marriages. But as of 2020, I think the figure was something around 5,941. So you can see that jump from 60 to 5,000
That's
plus, which is huge. Is yeah, is huge. And I think that just kind of shows the impact that COVID-19 is having on increasing young girls being more susceptible to child marriages. And obviously that's because schools are closed, kids are now being placed in environments where they're more susceptible to child marriages, being in the home full time, as opposed to most girls who are in boarding schools. And then you've also got the financial burden on families, loss of income on a lot of families, and to a certain degree, child marriages are also seen as a way of getting money because there's also a practice of bride price where the family receive money for the girl being married off. So those are also ways in which maybe the family can make a little bit of money, but there's also the challenges of families and parents being able to support and raise their kids, so they don't see any other option aside from the practice of child marriage. So there's a lot of kind of like intersectionalities within the whole issue of child marriage to begin with. And I think COVID-19 has just kind of amplified that and kind of, yeah, just made the situation 100 times, 1,000 times worse.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of thinking, obviously, during COVID, it's also a lot harder for people to raise the funds for charities that do kind of raise awareness on the matter and also
Mm.
kind of like work to prevent such your charity. Um,
Mm.
I'm guessing COVID has had a bit of an impact on like the way you can help as well.
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest barriers would be the ability to communicate with the girls because most of them don't even have access to phones, they don't have access to the internet, so it's quite challenging in that respect to kind of have that constant communication. So we rely very much on facilitators or the school point of contact that we have made relationship with to kind of give us that information. But obviously that's also more so hard when they're back home because it's harder for people to kind of keep track on the girls because they're back home and there's not really that constant communication going on. So yeah, it's definitely been challenging, and I think communication has been the biggest challenge.
Yeah, yeah. So other than communicating with the girls, what kind of other kind of work do you do? Yeah, tell us about how SheRose works with those girls in there, and the workshops and the funding and how you help.
Okay, so pre-COVID, so I'll kind of like break it up into
Yeah.
pre-COVID, post-COVID kind of thing. So pre-COVID, we the charity is very much involved in three elements. So we have a workshops that we run in a school that we've partnered with, and these workshops are very much aimed towards educating the girls around their rights, around gender equality, around their health, sexual health, which is something that's really not discussed a lot in Malawi. Educating the girls around how to seek support if they are unfortunately victims of sexual violence, and just fostering that environment where they can feel comfortable to kind of share what their experiences are, but also kind of looking to support some of their daily challenges. So for example, one of the workshops that we've run has been around making sanitary towels for girls, like reusable sanitary towels, or making homely sourced bras from homely sourced materials, or something that they have access to, but creating a support that enables them to continue coming to school, because most times, because they're on their menstrual cycle, they're not coming to school because they don't have the right things to support them as they're in school. Some of them obviously going through puberty or developing, you don't have bras, you might feel a little bit self-conscious and ashamed to continue coming to school. So we very much try to identify some of the daily challenges that they might face to even come to school and try and support with that, but then also educating girls around human rights, as I've mentioned. For most of these girls, they don't even know they have rights. They don't even know that anything like human rights exists. So when you actually have a conversation with them and you talk to them about their rights, talk to them about some of these things that are out there that protect them and how they can access those protections, it's really empowering, because they come out of that workshop having entered it with no clue as to what's going on in the world, as to some of the laws or even some of the instruments that are in place to protect them, and then they come out of there actually feeling a little bit more empowered. And hopefully, if they do face some of these challenges, if they do experience, unfortunately it does happen, if they do experience some sort of sexual violence against them, then they would know where to go to, they know how to navigate in order to kind of like seek the support and help that they would need. So our workshops are very much geared towards that. And then we also, obviously, as I've mentioned, we believe in the power of education, and we believe that just because you're born in a certain circumstance, you do not have to be deprived of the opportunities that education affords. So we also have a sponsorship program where at the end of, I always struggle to kind of like translate this into into like UK education system, but I'm just going to say at the end of like primary school,
Yeah.
in Malawi they have exams, and then they get selected into secondary school. And then in Malawi, primary school is free, but secondary school you have to start paying for. So it's at that point that a lot of girls don't end up going into further education, and then they become more susceptible to child marriages. So we offer sponsorship opportunities for girls who have been selected into secondary school, but whose parents are unable to fund their secondary school education. And for me, I think it's really, I don't know, for me, when I see the figure and the amount that is being requested for someone's education, for example, if you go to day secondary school, is something like £10 a term to obviously put a girl through school. And if you go to boarding school, it's something like £50 a term, which is, when you think about what we would spend that money on here, like I could probably go to Nando's or buy a pair of trainers, but for somebody that's actually a figure and an amount that's going to transform their life.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think when you kind of put it into that context, it's something I feel like it's really, I don't want to say easy, but it's something that we could do, and it makes such a huge difference into someone's life, and it can actually change someone's whole life. And when you think about educating a girl and then you change their life, you're not only changing their life, you're also changing the lives of their family, you're changing the life of their community. So I think there's such a ripple effect on the little that we're doing towards impacting these people's lives, and it has such a huge impact ultimately towards their whole family and their whole community. So I think when you look in the grand scheme of things about the impact and the greater impact, not just in the girl's life, but the greater impact towards the community. I think that's when it kind of like sinks in that this is really something that's worthwhile. So yeah, we have like the sponsorship element, and we're currently developing a mentoring scheme where the girls we sponsor will partner them up with like a mentor who can support them. So that might be based on maybe the career that they've identified that they're interested in. So if somebody's interested in being a nurse, for example, you might pair them up with somebody who's in that field, and they can help you navigate. They can help you, give you advice around how to maybe what subjects you need to study, or give you some sort of work experience if that's available. So yeah, it's somebody to just help you nurture and also help you support you through your everyday struggles as you're in secondary school. Because I can imagine that just because we're paying for their school fees doesn't mean, you know, that kind of like alleviates all the other problems that they have. So I think it's important to kind of have somebody with them that's paired up with them who can support some of the other challenges that we as a charity might not be able to obviously support. Like I'm here in the UK, so it's hard for me to kind of have that relationship with the girls. So it's important to have somebody in place who they can know to go to if they're struggling in their everyday life.
Yeah. So
So
are
that,
you
yeah.
in touch with mentors then? Or do you have like anyone else that kind of works for the charity in Malawi?
Sorry, what was that?
So you have those mentors that kind of obviously help the girls. Do you have anyone else that kind of works and does these workshops in Malawi, or is it something that you go and do?
No, so we've got a few people that support. So we've got volunteers in Malawi as well that help with coordinating our workshop, that will help with maybe paying the school fees. We've got a program coordinator as well. We've got workshop facilitator. So there's quite like a small team, but it's a team that is able to kind of like manage. It's a team that's able to manage the work that we're doing. But I think as we're growing, it's definitely areas that are expanding, and we might need to look for other people to support in those areas. But I think currently we have enough people to support our work in Malawi.
That's amazing. Honestly, you're doing such an amazing job, and
Oh, thank you.
because it's not like you're taking something, you're taking like the money and you're like, here's some money, like go to school. Like you're providing that extra mentors, providing that support at those workshops. You're doing it in such a sustainable way that it will stay and it will make a difference, and over time it will stop the cycle of of girls getting married, having children, and those children will probably end up getting married, and you know, early on as well. So you know, it's kind of breaking that cycle.
Yeah, I think most people, and this is where like I always want to kind of like demonstrate that it goes beyond actually just financially supporting someone, because yeah, obviously that is essential and that's needed. Education is not free, like I've mentioned, so it's important for us to also have funding for that. But I think we often neglect the mental health well-being side of things. Like these girls have been exposed to so much trauma that you can't just expect that because you've paid for their education, then that kind of like wipes out all that trauma that they've experienced their whole life. Like there's like cultural practices that are embedded in their communities that they've had to experience. I'm not even sure that I've fully grasped everything that these girls would have gone through from birth to the point where we intercept. So I think it's important to kind of also provide that the support aside from financial support, but actually investing in that child so that you're able to learn, I guess, gain their trust so that they're able to share with you some of their experiences so that you can then begin to support them around their well-being. So I think like a key element around everything that we do is also around mental health and well-being, which in Malawi is non-existent. Like there's a lot of stigma around mental health. So it's important for us to kind of try and start also breaking down that stigma so that young people are feeling confident and empowered to also speak about the experiences that they might be experiencing trauma from and actually start healing from that. Because I think, yeah, financial support is great, but that's not really the whole solution to the issue. There's also other elements that are important to kind of like recognize and support.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, think about it, like, I don't know, people who go to school for free in the UK like struggle with mental health. But you can imagine
Right.
the scenario is different when not only does a person have to pay to go to school, but also has to suffer through all these like traumas on a daily cases and no one really talks about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. It's something to bring awareness to as well, because a lot of people, even like myself, like I didn't know that it was like a taboo topic in Malawi. So it's great to raise awareness there as well. Definitely.
Yeah, I think there's definitely like a misunderstanding around mental health. So like in my day job, I work in a mental health charity. So like the stigma around mental health in Malawi is very evident, and I'm sure Malawi is not in isolation. I'm sure there's a lot of other countries that also experience challenges around mental health. So I think, yeah, it's very much sidelined. Nobody really focuses on the mental health implications of young girls suffering. And I've heard so many stories where a young girl has been in a child marriage, or they've been pregnant, or they've been assaulted, and people are like, oh yeah, get take them to the police and get a case, but nobody really focuses on how are we then going to support the mental health and well-being of this child that's just been violated? How are we going to make sure that, yeah, it's important to kind of punish the people that have done this, but then what are you going to do to make sure that the rest of her life is not determined by this experience that she has had? And how are you going to support her to unpack whatever has happened so that she's able to kind of like deal with the trauma that comes with that and then be able to move on beyond that? So I think, yeah, there's a need for greater focus around mental health. And just a caveat, obviously, I think there's a lot of work being done in Malawi on the ground around recognizing people's mental health and actually getting the government to put measures in place to support that. But as of now, I think it's still an area that's lacking. So yeah,
That's
there's a
something
lot. There's a lot.
definitely. Wow. Yeah. Well, there's just so many ways in which we can support you as a charity to kind of make those changes. Like Stella even posted in the comments, anyone can volunteer.
Yeah.
Before COVID, you were doing different events as well to kind of raise money. Now you can go on your website and donate.
Yeah, and I think just to also kind of like add, I think I don't know, it's hard for people to obviously think of how they can support, and it doesn't always have to be like a monetary thing. And I think me and Stella are always talking about how, like, my passion is obviously advocating for change, human rights, girls' rights, empowering women. But I'm not like I'm not Superwoman that knows how to do everything. Like, far from it. Like, I might have that passion, I have skills, expertise, but there are certain areas that I'm not good at, and you're not good at everything as a person anyway. So I think other people might struggle to think, oh, how can I help this charity? You have that passion, you kind of believe in the mission that we do. And I think it's important to realize that it doesn't always have to be monetary. It can be a skill that you have that we might not have. It can be, I don't know, maybe you're good at fundraising, maybe you're creative, so you can help with our branding, maybe you can help with, I don't know, events planning. These are all areas that you can support in. So it doesn't really have to be financial. I mean, I'm not turning down the financial element of things. If you wanna sponsor, I'll be really happy. I'll be really happy and grateful, and I'm sure the girls will be really happy and grateful. But I think just because maybe you might not have the money to support, and that shouldn't really deter you from supporting us, because, or any other charity, it doesn't have to be SheRose, but it shouldn't, just because you don't have that money to kind of like pour into a charity doesn't mean you can't also continue to help, because there's so many other ways that you can support. Even being an ambassador and just speaking out about what the charity does and just letting more people know about the charity's mission and what they're working on, that is a huge help.
Yeah.
That a lot of people, I think, don't really think about when you think about supporting a charity. I think most times we always just think about the financial side of things, which is great, but yeah, there's also other ways you can help.
Definitely. And I feel like what you said before is so true. Like, people are, maybe also feel really passionate, but they're like, well, what can I do? I don't really have the funds. You can and honestly, and you can do anything really to kind of help raise awareness. And I went to a talk the other day, and the person said, if you don't feel like you have anything to offer, just think that the main and the most important quality that you may have to help someone is that you care. Like, you have to care, and that is the first step, and that is the main thing. As long as you care and you really deeply feel like you feel very passionately about this, then that's enough. And then like, you just have to believe in yourself and have that confidence to kind of just take the first step.
Yeah, like I can speak from experience. I remember like in 2016 when I was like, you know what? I can't take this anymore. What am I going to do? Like there was that frustration of what do I do? What am I going to do? Like I don't know how to help. Do I like start lobbying for, there was all these thoughts in my head. But I think for me, what I decided to do was, right, okay, what am I good at? Like what do I like? First of all, what do I work in? I work in a charity, so obviously like I'm good at like setting up things, developing programs and kind of like implementing those programs. And I was like, you know what? Let me use the skills that I have and kind of channel that into creating the change that I want to see. And luckily for me, I've been able to kind of like connect with people who have other expertise that I don't have, who are able to then help the charity. So I think there's different ways that you can kind of do activism, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what other word to use. Yeah. Like to me, like when we first started talking, I was like, trek. How does that? So
Yeah, I was like, I'm just gonna go for a walk.
So yeah, I feel like that's like a key example of using your kind of like your skill, your passions, your expertise, but to kind of like channel that into creating change. Most people wouldn't really think, oh, okay, I'm gonna go to do a trek, and then that's gonna kind of like filter down into supporting a charity. But I think you're like key proof that you can, whatever you're passionate about, whatever you have an interest in, you can actually turn that into something that creates change in whatever thing you're passionate about and whatever thing you're trying to advocate for. So you don't just have to think. I think we often think of charities and the work that they do in like that mainstream, like this is the way that it's done. But I think we need to kind of like, I'm happy that SheRose is kind of moving away from that, and we're kind of exploring other ways in which to advocate for the change that we want to see, and we're exploring different ways in which people can use their skills and use the things that they're passionate about to kind of still come together as a community, come together as a partnership to create the change towards the same thing that we're all collectively passionate about.
Exactly. There's just so many ways in which you can help, and there's honestly endless possibilities. Like if anyone like I've worked in events or is kind of like into events and anything, like even such a thing as like like you have festivals, right? And like people like do so much activism at festivals, like, and you don't even realize because they do it in such creative ways. Like
Yeah.
people don't even know. I just love it. I just love it. So if anyone loves I don't know, human rights, social justice, and walking on
Empowering girls.
yeah.
Like we're more than happy to speak to anyone who has an idea. Like there might be ideas that I've never heard of. I'm not really opposed to hearing it. Like if it can work, why not? If you have fun doing it, why not? So yeah, I think we have to make creating social change also fun. It doesn't have to be boring. It can be fun, and I think as long as you're having fun and you're creating change, then it's great. It's a win-win for everyone.
Exactly. So thank you so much for this conversation. It was lovely to talk to you.
Thank you for having me.
Always, anytime. It was so amazing to hear all about what you can do, like what you do now, your plans. Oh yeah, actually, share a little about post-COVID work.
Sorry, I was there talking about pre-COVID, post-COVID.
No, that's a very good point, because I was like, oh my god, yeah, workshops and stuff, but I'm kind of like, wait.
Yeah, so post-COVID, so obviously Malawi was on lockdown until schools have reopened in October. So we've kind of like left this term that they're opening for them to kind of readjust, settle back into school. There's a lot of changes in schools that are happening as a result of COVID, putting like the social distancing measures in place. So we didn't really feel that this was the right time to start bringing back workshops and kind of like start doing the work that we were doing pre-COVID, because again, as a result of COVID, our ways of working might have to change. So I think our plans during, I don't want to say post because we're kind of still experiencing COVID, during this time, what we're planning on doing is kind of hearing from the young people. I think it's important to hear from the girls that we want to support, because we don't want to just assume that this is what they want. So it will be good for us to kind of hear from them about what has been some of the struggles around being in lockdown, and how can we kind of alleviate those struggles as they're coming back into school and adjusting back into school life. Based on the statistics around child pregnancies, I think it's important for us to start thinking about how can we support those young girls who have then become pregnant during this period. So we're looking at having health visitors in place, because for most girls, we work in rural areas. Most of the people there don't really have financial stability, so the likelihood that they will be seeing health visitors during their pregnancies, I don't think it happens. So I think for us, it's more, can we put those health visitors in place in these communities to be able to see those young girls? Because I can imagine that it's quite a daunting experience. Most of them are really so young, so it would be quite good for them to have somebody who knows the experiences that they're going to be going through, who might be able to support with them with any challenges that they're facing during their pregnancy. So we're looking at how maybe we can put health visitors in place in the community, and also speaking to the girls to see how we can support as they're coming back into the education system. So I think most of our delivery work will start in January. And I think, so pre-COVID, our workshops usually had about 110 students, girls, at one time. But I think moving forward post-COVID, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of discussions being had around some of the challenges, and I think it's going to be more sensitive. It's probably our ways of working around workshops will change in a way that we'll have smaller workshops, maybe girls between 10 to 20 within one workshop.
Yeah.
So that's going to mean having more regular workshops as opposed to what we were having before, because obviously there'll be more girls needing to have smaller, safe spaces to talk. So yeah, it's just we're kind of in that phase where we're still shaping the COVID response that we're going to be implementing, but I think it's very much going to be based on hearing from the girls themselves about what it is that they want moving forward.
Yeah, yeah. And Stella's saying mentorship schemes will be the biggest addition post-COVID.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I think there's also like a discussion being had around having maybe drop-in sessions for girls. Some girls might not feel comfortable to share their experiences in even a space as small as having 10 other girls in a workshop. So maybe having one of our facilitators attend the schools sporadically, and just having like drop-in sessions where the girls can just know that, oh, there's a woman in that room, if in case you wanted to speak privately about something that you're experiencing. So just kind of, I guess, adjusting our support in a way that is more conducive to what the needs might be, but also leaving it open and flexible that it can be shaped by the girls that we're here to serve. Because I in no way want to kind of create a service that I think is great, but doesn't actually serve the purpose. So I think it's good to kind of like leave it a little bit flexible for now, until we've spoken to the girls, until we've heard what it is that they would benefit from. Because ultimately, it's about, yeah.
I think it's so important that you do that, and I'm really happy you are, because, like you said, it's it's easy to just assume, to think what people need, but then really, what do they need? Yeah.
Yeah, like, I think, well, I'm no longer 12, so I don't really know. I don't really know what would be beneficial. Like, I can sit and be like, I think this would be great. Yeah. I think they would love this. They would definitely love it. Yeah, why not? Let's just do that. But I think it's more impact. I think it's also empowering for the girls themselves, because I very much want girls to feel like they're shaping their own narratives, they're shaping their own futures. It's not me or anyone within the SheRose charity that's actually shaping a future for you. We can just give you the tools. Like, it's up to you to kind of like utilize those tools to kind of create the future that you want. So I think yeah, it's important for the girls to have a say, because it empowers them to know that I did this, I created my future, I utilized the skills that were given to me, but I ultimately created and kind of like created the path for myself to kind of advance and kind of make choices about the sort of future that you want. So, yeah.
Well, you're doing a lot of work post-COVID as well, and it's lovely to see how you're like adjusting to the situation, which is really important. And like I said, it's amazing that you listen to those girls and you kind of hear their needs as well, regardless of what the situation is, really. But yeah, right. If you wanna help SheRose, whether that's through volunteering or raising funds or any kind of do, like Kheli said, just message her. Like, I guess send her on Instagram, or like email them. I think your email's on the website. Yeah. So it's as easy as that, or you can, you know, any way you can get involved, that would be amazing, because like you all saw hopefully now, at the amazing work that you all do, I'm so happy to be able to support you in this.
Oh,
And honestly, like, you know, even every time I like talk to you about this and talk to Stella, I just feel so happy that like things are getting done, and I know
yeah, definitely.
because, you know, it's just putting that trust, and like it's such a thing that's so close to your heart, and
Yeah.
you can really tell. So thank you so much for taking the time to do this talk with me and kind of
No.
raise awareness on this, and raising awareness on a lot of issues that I feel like people are really unaware of. And I feel like
Mm.
it's such a privilege to be able to just turn your phone off and to be able to turn away from those issues, that just because they're not affecting you doesn't mean that you can't do anything
Mhm.
about it, you know. And I just want
Yeah,
to understand that it's important to read about these things, and it's important to, you know, to be aware of what's going on in the world.
definitely, definitely. Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for all your support and everything that you're doing to support our charity. Honestly, it's amazing, it's great, and we really appreciate your support. So thank you for everything.
Thank you. If you guys would like to donate using my link, then that'd be amazing as well. Or if you'd like to buy any stuff from Dr. Sand, that'd be really cool too. Just to put it out there.
Yeah, they're great. I'm really addicted. I have to hold myself from like just buying everything.
Yeah, and that you got your third order in. I'm just like, oh, I got my jasmonite in now. I can start making. I've been making these. They're not polished, so like don't judge. But like little candle holders, I'm taking today. So exciting times.
I'm just amazed by all the stuff that you're doing. Honestly, it's amazing. And I keep
I'm amazed
seeing,
by
like,
you. So.
I always see the stuff that you make, and I'm like, I need to buy this, and I'm like, I don't have a house yet, but you know, I need to buy. I'm just buying stuff and just storing it somewhere, just you know, for the future, because I know that by the time I get whatever it is, like my house, it might be too late, so I have to buy from you now.
Get it all, get it all.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your support and for having this talk with me, and I hope you have a lovely evening.
You too. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.